On this episode of 26 Minutes with Dr. Warren Siegel, I'm joined by Dr. Alex Nathanson, a dedicated physician in the weight management department here at New York City Health and Hospital, South Brooklyn Health. Dr. Nathanson is board certified in both family medicine and obesity medicine. He completed his undergraduate education at the Sophie Davis School of Biomedical Education and earned his medical degree from SUNY Downstate. Since joining South Brooklyn Health in 2022, he has been committed to helping our patients achieve healthier lifestyles through personalized care and evidence-based treatment. What makes Dr. Nathanson's work even more meaningful is his deep connection to our community that he grew up in, right here in this neighborhood surrounding South Brooklyn Health. And he takes great pride in giving back to the place that he calls home. Guided by the philosophy that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, Dr. Nathanson empowers patients to take control of their own health. Dr. Nathanson, thank you so much for being on the show today. I know you're busy, but I deeply appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So, as I mentioned in your introduction, you're from the neighborhood. So tell me a little bit about being from Brooklyn and probably more importantly, why you're still here practicing your specialty.
Absolutely. I grew up in this area around South Brooklyn Health, former Coney Island Hospital. As you mentioned, I went on to the Sophie Davis School of Biomedical Education. I got my MD from SUNY Downstate. As a medical student, I briefly rotated at Coney Island Hospital. Some of the doctors I work with, they're still here. I went on to pursue a residency in family medicine, thinking I would become a primary care doctor. I did that for a little while. You know, there's some things that I found very rewarding. I formed good, close connections with the patients and their family members. But there were also some other things that frustrated me a bit. In adult primary care, as you can imagine, there's so many chronic conditions. And patients, well, you know, there's a lot of disease-containing care. We were able to stabilize their condition, keep them out of the hospital, but not a whole lot of patients got a lot better. So there's a time I got a bit frustrated with it, wanted to do something different. For a while I worked in a busy urgent care center. I did that for a number of years. And then a little while ago, I developed a keen interest in the science around weight and appetite control. A lot of this stemmed from my own experiences with my own struggles with weight, also that of some of my colleagues in the medical community. This you know, didn't make sense to me. I figured we're doctors. We know the risks of obesity. If we haven't figured it out, how can we expect our patients to? Shouldn't it be a simple equation of calories in minus calories out, eat less, move more? This was the time that I started to realize there was a little bit more to it than this.
Wow, so this is incredible. When I think about a family medicine physician, I think about prevention. I think about preventing diabetes. I think about preventing all the diseases that we fight against, whether it's HIV, whether it's diabetes, hypertension, high blood pressure. So you then went back and did further training in obesity?
I did some extra education, and I obtained a second board certification in obesity medicine.
So that's a special certification specifically to help people deal with their weight?
Correct. It is another specialty recognized by the Board of Obesity Medicine. And at the time, I looked at the data around the subject, and I saw that something about 40% of all adults in the U.S. suffered from obesity. So I figured, there's plenty of demand. So I decided to pursue this field full time, and I've been back here at South Brooklyn Health since 2022.
Wow, that's incredible. You know, so often when I think about a hospital, you think about heart attacks, you think about strokes. I don't really think about going to a hospital because I'm overweight. Is this groundbreaking? Is this something that every hospital has? I mean, this is just so exciting.
It's not every hospital has this yet, but it is definitely a growing field. partially because of all of the demand from the data that I mentioned earlier, and also some of these new groundbreaking therapeutics that we're starting to see now.
Oh, I definitely want to talk about that in a few minutes, but I want to pick up on something else you said. I don't necessarily go to my doctor for the treatment of my asthma because he has asthma. I don't go to my doctor because she has high blood pressure. You struggle with weight? Hard for me to believe. You look like you're in such great shape. Is that because you just learned how to eat better and live better, or is this something that just brought you here?
Well, thank you for the compliment, Dr. Siegel. Again, it is something that I've struggled with for most of my adult life, and allowed me to develop some empathy with many of my patients. There's a lot of misconceptions around people with obesity. The conventional wisdom is that these are people that are responsible for their own predicament. They may be lazy, they're unwilling to make the effort to improve themselves, when the reality is that patients with obesity, they try to lose weight, and often many times. There's different data on the subject, but within a 5-year window, people will have tried 3 significant attempts at weight loss. Sometimes they do lose weight, and it's believe me, it's one of the most difficult things that one might ever accomplish, only to soon after regain a lot of that weight. It can be incredibly frustrating. There's a disparaging term that we often use, yo-yo dieting. I like to refer to this as a normal physiology dieting. This is how it works. The body either prevents weight loss or tries to regain weight soon afterwards. And there's a number of reasons for why this happens, because weight regulation is quite complicated. It's a combination of genetics and environment. The saying goes, genetics loads the gun, environment pulls the trigger. And by environment, there's multiple things that consist, including, of course, the quality of the diet, the amount of physical activity, but also things that people may not always think about, such as the amount of personal stress, the quality of the sleep. Sometimes patients need to take certain medications that can promote weight gain. And the body takes all of these signals and creates a set point, sort of like a marker for where we've all decided that this is where your weight is going to be.
Wait a minute, I want to have a back up. You said something that's really, I think, profound. Genetics loads the gun, environment pulls the trigger. Did I get that right? Are you saying that I was predisposed based on my genetics to have a weight issue? And yes, I do have a weight issue, and I'm constantly dealing with my weight. Now, I didn't when I was younger. But you're saying that genetics, I was predisposed to have a weight issue at my age?
The genetics are always there, including in multiple generations of people who may not suffer from obesity, but at some point or another, for various reasons, something in the environment, and we have a lot of theories about this, all of a sudden obesity sets in. There's some kind of environmental trigger that happens.
Well, I can tell you, I can almost pinpoint to the day when I started gaining weight like crazy. It was medical school, when I was much more sedentary, and even during residency when I was running around a lot, I was not eating right, and even as an adult, I still don't eat the proper diet. I skip meals when I'm busy, but I always thought that was because I'm not in control. Are you saying that that's a myth? It's not my fault?
That is correct. There's so many factors in play there. Of course, eating healthy or not eating healthy, but you mentioned a perfect example during residency. There's so much stress that you undergo. The sleep schedule is so disrupted, and these affect your hormones. These affect your set point in a way that makes it a lot easier to gain weight.
My God, I wish I'd met you years ago. I could stop beating myself up. Because what I'm hearing you say is we have to stop blaming ourselves for our weight problems. Am I just hearing what I want to hear, or is that what you're saying?
Well, we have to accept the fact that patients are aware of their weight, and they do try and often try hard to make changes.
Wow. What about some of the other myths? Can you talk about some other myths besides, if I really wanted to lose weight, I could. As I'm talking, I'm thinking about what people say about people who smoke cigarettes. If you really had willpower, you could do it. And yet, when we try and help our patients quit smoking, we know that sometimes it's 5, 6, 7, 8 times before they're actually successful. And I've tried dieting a lot more than 5, 6, 7, 8 times. What other myths are there?
Well, we do know that patients, they may often try to lose weight so many times that at a certain point they almost give up trying, and they decide that their energy is best spent somewhere else, because obesity it's a visible condition. This differs than something like hypertension, for example. No one sees that, but obesity, it's there for the whole world to see. So patients will hear about it throughout their whole lives. They'll hear about it from their family members, their friends, from their coworkers. They'll often hear about it from their medical staff and from the medical team, and they often have a very negative association with it. So it can be very bothersome to them when some member of the care team makes some kind of snarky comment, or when their doctor launches into some unsolicited advice. It kind of triggers some pushback in them.
Yeah. Body shaming. I mean, we see that so often, not just in social media, but in media in general, and then daily interactions. There's got to be a better way to talk about weight. Can you give us some I don't know, concrete examples of how we should be talking about people and being supportive of the people that we love who are struggling with their weight?
Well, of course. In the medical setting, patients have to feel comfortable. The doctor's office needs to have comfortable furniture, chairs, exam table. There needs to be a well-fitting blood pressure cuff. These are some examples. Also, some of the language that we use around obesity can be extremely stigmatizing. For example, the term morbid obesity. I believe that this is a term that should be removed from the medical vocabulary. We don't use morbid when we talk about any other kind of diagnosis, except with obesity. And the implication is that, this person was irresponsible enough to make themselves to bring themselves to this morbid state.
So we're constantly blaming the victim.
We are. During my visits, I make it a point to implement what's known as motivational interviewing. Rather than me talking at the patient, I let the patient talk to me. I want to hear about what kind of baggage they're bringing to this visit. Why did they decide to come today? What is their understanding about their condition? What kind of treatments they may be open to or not open to?
I've got to ask you, you're not a psychiatrist. There's a lot of emotional baggage when it comes to dealing with weight. But it sounds like you're dealing with that as well as the physical manifestations of weight. Is that right?
If the patient has to be comfortable speaking with you, and once they acknowledge that you're coming at them from a place of care, they would be willing to be more open with you and to agree to some of your recommendations.
So let's talk about, you used the term motivational interviewing. I'm not sure all of our viewers are familiar with that. Can you explain that a little bit? What is that?
It's a way to get the patient to explain to you, to make sure that they understand why it is that they're here. It's a way for me to understand that the patient understands. Like why do you want to lose weight? For example, is it so I could be healthy? I could be healthy for my family, play around with my kids, live longer, so that I can prevent the complications of diabetes, hypertension, don't die early from a heart attack, for example. I want to make sure that the patient understands that this is what it's all about. It's not really about the number on the scale. And motivational interviewing is the best way to elicit that from the patient.
So to be specific, you're not talking about people who need to lose 5, 10, 15 pounds. I want to look better at the beach. I can't put on a bathing suit and be comfortable at the beach. You're not talking about that. You're talking about people who weigh a lot more, or is it just anybody who's not happy with their weight?
So certainly mild cases of overweight or obesity can be associated with some health issues, with some cosmetic concerns very, very often. But when the condition is more severe, we know that there's multiple ways in which obesity can be harmful, through the biomechanical effects on the joints, for example, with the hips, knees, low back, the feet. Also, obesity can affect the breathing through obstructive sleep apnea, when there's a buildup of tissues around the neck and the tongue. And there's also the cardiometabolic effects of obesity, where we know that the fat tissue secretes these cytokines, basically these inflammatory markers that stir up a whole lot of trouble throughout the body. And this is how it's associated with things like diabetes, insulin resistance, hypertension, dyslipidemia, liver disease, kidney disease, multiple types of cancer. Many people may not be aware of that.
Wow, incredible. I've got to go right to the question. How do I get an appointment with you? Does somebody make an appointment with you directly, or do they have to be referred from their primary care doctor? What's the process?
Both. Patients are certainly welcome to call for an appointment. We get a lot of interest from patients from the community, from outside the hospital. However, most patients are referred internally. They have a primary care doctor here at South Brooklyn Health.
So my guess is that most of your patients have tried dieting. Is there a diet that everybody should be following? Is there something that you recommend? And then I guess another question from that would be, do I have to do all this stuff and fail before I get to you, or can, how does the process work?
Well, we always take a stepwise approach. We want to make sure that maximum attempts at lifestyle interventions are made. And the question about diet and lifestyle, people will often ask me, "Oh, doctor, what's the best diet I should follow? Is it a Mediterranean diet, or a keto diet, or a plant-based diet?" And my answer to all of that is yes to all of the above. Yes and no, because we know that all of these work through the calorie restriction, not necessarily the nutrient composition. And this may offend some of the camps behind some of these diets, but we already know that it's more complicated than calorie restriction. So if any of these eating patterns works for you and you're getting the results that you're looking for, by all means, you should continue that. If it's not working, then the problem is not in any particular diet, but the overall difficulty of following any kind of restricted diet for a period of time. A couple of practical things I could say about diet. Now, there's no secrets. But sometimes there are some low-hanging fruit. If a patient consumes a lot of sugar-sweetened drinks, juices, sodas, sports drinks, that can be a relatively simple thing to change. Food, do try to eat home-cooked food rather than restaurant or takeout. It will almost always be healthier, because you know what goes into it. When you do your shopping, try to stick to the perimeter of the supermarket. That's where the fresh ingredients, the meat, dairy, eggs, fresh.
The perimeter of the supermarket.
The perimeter, rather than the inside.
Never heard that. That's interesting. So the stuff that's in the aisles in the middle, I should stay away from.
That stuff is more likely to be packaged, non-perishable products, which by definition they're more processed, and we know that foods that are more processed are more likely to be overconsumed.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Did not know that. That's great. That's a great tip. The problem I've always had with restrictive diets is that I'm hungry. So what's a tip when you're hungry? What should I be eating if I'm trying to keep my calories down and trying to lose weight?
Well, you've kind of sparked on the broader question about how how difficult it is to maintain a restrictive diet of any kind because the counter-regulatory mechanisms that the body employs to try to prevent you from losing weight, to try to get you to either not lose weight or regain weight that you've already lost. Evolutionarily, weight loss was not a good thing. It was associated with famine, starvation, and whatnot. So the body will try to prevent that at all costs and try to defend that set point that we were talking about earlier. There's multiple hormones in play, such as the leptin and ghrelin hormones that regulate your appetite. Also, if you're trying to eat less, you may find that you're more sluggish, you don't move as much. This is due to the subtle changes in metabolism that happen. And there's also a recent well-publicized article about how fat cells have a memory from when your weight was heavier, and they seek to return you to that state.
I'm really shocked that we've been talking now for over 20 minutes and you haven't used the E word. You haven't once talked about exercise. Let's talk about exercise. Exercise is fantastic. I have nothing bad to say about exercise. It improves your mood, it improves your energy, but if you do not change your diet along with it, the one thing it will not do is lower your weight. Many people go into exercising not realizing that, and there's a cliched expression about how you can't outrun a bad diet. Unfortunately, it's true. People who try to exercise but still eat the same way, they will likely not lose weight. They will get frustrated and they will stop exercising altogether. And it's hard to exercise when you're overweight. I mean, I hate to, let's just be honest. If I'm overweight, you mentioned sluggishness, I may be depressed, I'm embarrassed to go to a gym, I don't have the money to go to a gym. It's not so easy, is it?
Most people think that, you have to exercise to lose weight. The way I like to explain it is, first you have to lose the weight, and then finally you're able to exercise. You have to
Wait. I have to lose the weight, then I can exercise. If I lose the weight, I don't have to exercise. I've got down to what I want to weigh, right?
Well, exercise is not a weight loss tool. It's an overall health tool.
So it's
Most
part
people
of
think
being
of it
healthy.
as yes.
We got to talk about medications. There isn't a day that I don't turn on the TV that I don't see at least 4 ads for at least 4 different anti-obesity drugs. You take this and your fat just melts away. Is any of that true?
Medications are an important topic to talk about. They can be effective for many patients. They're there for people who've tried to lose weight through other ways, especially if they've made multiple attempts and they're not getting to their goals. They're not for people who are realizing for the first time that there's a weight problem. They're also not for people who desire cosmetic weight loss. They're real medications. They all have risks and benefits, and these have to be taken seriously. Having said that, they can be helpful. Yes, the medications will reduce your appetite, but they will offset some of these counter-regulatory mechanisms that I mentioned. For example, if you're eating less, you will finally, for the first time, be able to eat less and maintain a healthy diet because you're not going to be so ravenously hungry and inundated with food noise. So this is how the medications work. There's different classes. There's the older oral medications that have been around for decades. Some were first developed for obesity. Others were developed for other reasons, but then repurposed when they were found to have a weight loss effect. And there's a couple of examples where medications were combined to have a synergistic effect. These are the older oral medicines.
Wait. So these medications have been around for years, and they're oral. You watch TV. It feels like it was just developed just for me, just this week.
The first anti-obesity medications were developed in the 1930s. The earlier ones were quite unsafe, and over time, the efficacy and the safety profile has significantly improved.
I see. So let's talk about the newer medications. Again, I think we're all inundated with these commercials. Isn't it kind of like cheating?
I hope we've already established that patients with obesity, they rarely have things easy in life. And medications they're not a magic pill, quote unquote. Now, the question about these newer medications, I like to call them the incretin mimetics. Incretins are naturally occurring hormones that are produced by the gut, and the medication delivers a dose of that. They're often called GLP-1 agonists. That wouldn't be fully accurate because some of the newer agents we have, they target other receptors as well. And they can be quite transformative. The benefits are to a significant degree better than what we've seen previously.
So this is a new era of people, what I'm hearing is people not being shamed, not being blamed, and possibly actually being treated for a chronic disease that they struggle with. Am I hearing this right?
Medications are evidence-based treatment for medical disease. Absolutely.
This is amazing. What a wonderful time to be alive. What a wonderful time to be a doctor. But what a wonderful opportunity for you to help so many people. I read something many years ago that said obesity was going to be the #1 killer of Americans. This was many years ago. I'm glad it's not #1, but it is in the top 5. And it's really nice to hear doctors stop blaming people who are struggling and being willing to help all of us live a healthier lifestyle. Thank you so much for what you're doing, and it is a pleasure and an honor to have you here today.
Thank you, Dr. Siegel.
Thanks so much. And that brings us to the end of our program today. Thank you for tuning in and learning alongside of us. For more information about our show, please visit us at www.zormed.com and stay updated with South Brooklyn Health by visiting us online. This broadcast was brought to you by Brick Media in partnership with New York City Health and Hospitals, South Brooklyn Health. Until next time, be safe and stay well.